First of all, to start off, I want to congratulate Jimbo Covert for his Hall of Fame induction. I know this 2020 class, but pretty cool to see him get inducted last night and to see Mrs. McCaskey there is good stuff. As far as injuries, we have no changes from yesterday, so that's a good thing, and everything is from everything I told you yesterday. There's no changes, no updates. Go ahead. What? Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me, but whatever I said yesterday and wherever that was, it's exactly yesterday. So there's no changes. So I guess the way to put it was, from yesterday's practice, there's no additions.
You look thrilled.
Yeah. Yep. Nothing. Yeah. It's like I said yesterday. It's training camp, and we got guys that are out there busting their tail and just they're pushing through it. We're kind of at that point right now, being the third day of pads and the third day in a row of live, where we're taxing them mentally and physically. So I think it's good. And today we're going to have a little 4-minute live, and just play it out and see how it goes.
When you have competitions going on like Kendall Hildor and Desmond Trufant, might be a stupid question, but does this hurt Trufant's chances in the competition when he's out and Hildor is still healthy?
It probably just comes down, Mark, to the availability and just seeing what guy. The more reps you can get and see where they're at, the better. So probably just to keep it simple is your best ability is your availability, as you go through this thing. And when we have competition, we got to be able to see what guys can do. And it's again, none of it's because these guys not wanting to be out there. It's just part of training camp. They're pushing through and they're working through it, and then we just got to adapt.
Parts of practices that are live for you and Sean Desai, basically, where you guys don't necessarily know what the other is doing, and you really are going head to head like you would in a game.
Yeah. Yesterday, for instance, we had the end of the last period. You could see more coaches on the sideline trying to figure out the personnel we were in. We just don't script, so we'll just play it out. We call it a play it out series. They got to adjust to what our personnel is, and then I script the down and distances and the situation going into the practice, and then those guys that makes them think. Sean loves it because he's never called a game before, so for at least in the NFL, and so he's got to be able to adjust and adapt, and I think that helps him get to that point.
He was very animated in a couple periods we saw where you guys were doing what looked like live actions. Do you and him develop a little bit of a rivalry in these practices as you kind of go back and forth?
Yeah, it's fun. I appreciate that. I think both sides, can get heated at times in a good way, but I like the competitive part for him. I like seeing him get energized and get the guys going. And again, I think it's really good for all of us to go through those type of periods.
Have you talked to him yet about if he'll be on the sideline, in the booth?
Yeah, we've had that discussion, Brad, and we're actually we're going to do have him during preseason also, not just helping the players but helping him for a first year coordinator. Do you want to be on the sideline? Do you want to be up in the booth? So he might end up trying both during the preseason and seeing what he likes.
Yeah, with regard to the injuries, obviously it's early for you and you're trying to be positive, but
yeah.
You get why people look at that list, especially with Jenkins and Buffetti on it, and say, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
Yeah,
there's some concern.
Absolutely. I don't think I think it's stating the obvious that when you have a competition at a big position like that at left tackle, you want to make sure that you have a lot of guys that are out there being able to show what they can do. But at the same point in time, I think what happens is if you start getting to a panic mode, there's a lot of other teams that are going through some similar situations, and I think it's all about how you handle it. And understand that as long as you try to do what you can do today to get them better, a little bit better, and then when the time comes, as I've been saying this training camp, it'll all work itself out. I really believe that.
And along those lines, with the players who have gotten the opportunity, like you say, it's an opportunity. Has anyone taken advantage of that and opened your eyes a little bit, whether it's the offensive line or some other position, that now you're taking an even more serious look because you've seen? I know Borum was mentioned as a competitor before he got hurt. So, somebody like that, is there anybody who fits that category?
Well, I think we're kind of working through that right now as far as getting to that point, and preseason the games will help. But, Borum, Larry was an example, and then he got into the concussion protocol of having a good day of that one opportunity. But, again, you gotta be available. And trust me, Larry wants to be out there, but the day he was out there, he did well. I do believe that there are some guys that have taken advantage, and not so much taken advantage, but just have been able to show us the type of depth that we have. Because it's a long season, and your starters can go down during the year, and this helps us too. Not so much evaluate who the starter is, but evaluate who the backup is, and so that when something does happen during the year, who's the next guy that's going to fill in and keep that thing going.
How have you seen maybe Justin's understanding of the offense, comfort of the offense, catch up to his natural talent, his natural arm talent?
Yeah.
On the field?
No, he's getting close. I mean, I know there's a lot of praise in regards to where he's at right now with the mental side of it, but there's still times we all got to be real in this thing, and I think the learning curve of where he's at a great place. But are there still mistakes? Yeah, of course. I mean, there's still times where Andy and Nick are making mistakes, but he learns from them, and I think that's where it's valuable at nighttime and throughout the day when we're watching tape is to let him see it. So now he can take that and use it the next time he's out there. But he's very talented. He knows that, but he's got to be able to kind of stick through the progression. What's neat with him right now is he's starting to see a little bit of, for instance, there might be some times where he tries to be a little bit aggressive downfield, and the defense just drops 7 or 8 guys 15 yards deep just to instinctually quicker get the ball checked down. I think he's starting to learn that a little bit, and he's seeing that because it's happening to him in practice.
Is that different when you have a guy who's just maybe that gifted with his arm to be that, like he wants to be aggressive? Like I'm trying to relate it to Patrick, who has that natural arm talent, like coaching him through all that. Like how different is that for you, and how different is that for
Yeah, just seeing tape and understanding I think probably more than anything is situationally. So sometimes it might be 3rd and 14, and you're thinking, man, I got to throw that ball to that dagger route across the middle and get 15, 16, 17 yards, when there's lots of clips of doing that and the ball getting plinkoed up in the air and intercepted instead of a check down to the tight end or the halfback who catches it at 7 yards, makes one guy miss or runs somebody over and gets the first. That's probably the part of him being able to see that. He hears it, but when you see it on tape, examples of it, now when he's in practice, he does that, and he says, oh, yeah, that is. So that kind of reels him in a little bit when he sees it.
What did you think of his poise when you're in that backed up drill? He's standing in the middle of the end zone. They're not going to hit him with the pressure.
I think that his poise is one of his strengths. He's extremely calm. The players feel that when you're that way. They trust in that. And now in the live stuff, it's hard because they're backed up and these D linemen are trying to get safeties and hit the quarterback and they can't touch him, let alone be in the halo we talk about and around his feet. And Justin had a couple throws yesterday where he was smart enough to make the throw and not necessarily step into it and step on someone's ankle, et cetera. So he has a good feel there.
Will Doug Peterson be out there again today?
No, not today. He took off.
Is he done? Was this just a visit, or will he?
Here?
Yeah, will he come back again? Is what I'm thinking.
Maybe down the road or something if he feels like he needs to do that. But it was strictly a visit to be able to hang out, talk ball, and like I said, we're good friends.
Now, Akeem has been here longer than almost anybody in your locker room. How much of a part of his personality is in the personality of your defense? I mean, he's been here when it was just okay, and when it got better, and now the last couple of years. Can you separate kind of his infectiousness from the infectiousness of the defense when it's going?
Yeah, well, I think we all know all of our players on defense, they all have their own personalities. I mean, you look at a guy like Khalil, and he's more of the introvert. He's quiet. He leads by example. And then you look at Hicksy, and here's a guy that's going to talk when he's out there, and I absolutely love it. I mean, he's physical. Teams got to know where he's at. And I think he really brings that group of guys together. And like you said, he's been on a lot of different teams. And he's especially here in Chicago, been on a bunch of different defenses. But it's good for the young guys to see somebody that's been in this league for a while, the vocal side of him, and how when we need it, he's there a lot of the times to step in and really get going vocally, and it's good for the guys.
Do you sense some motivation from him this year? Somebody playing in the last year of his contract?
No, you know what? I think for Hicks is like every year he comes in, and I like this, with a little chip on his shoulder. It's not just this year. I thought he did it every year that I've been here. he comes into training camp and you can see he's got that competitive edge. I mean, he's really wired the right way as far as trying to be competitive, and he wants to win and be a great leader and teammate with his guys. And again, when you have that, we have a nice mix right now on this whole team, not just defense, but the whole team. We got these guys that have been in the league for 8 to 10 years. We got guys that have been in the league for 2 to 4 years, and it's an interesting dynamic to see, to allow some of those 2 to 4 year guys learn from the 8 to 10 year guys. We're kind of in that mode right now, and it's neat because you got a bunch of leaders.
And what have you seen from, we talked about having Nick as your third string and what it does for the other guys, but with Justin, same thing, with the number 2 receivers, number 3 receivers. What are you seeing some of these young guys in terms of how it helps their opportunities, having those quarterbacks?
Well, I think they're very fortunate to have those 3 guys as their 3 quarterbacks. And again, I can't state it enough. Like when Nick Foles is in the huddle with our third group of players on offense, you can just, like, he's directing. He's really being a coach in that huddle, and he's getting guys in the right spot. And a lot of times we probably have more huddle breaks where we got to come back in and get it reset and call it again. We're not having it with him because he's calling it the right way in the huddle. Guys are getting in the right spots. Now what we got to do, and I say this in a joking way, is kind of reel Nick in just a little bit with he's got that QB toolbox where he can put things on within the play, and some of these young guys might not know what the heck he's putting on. So adjustments at the line of scrimmage. So we have to reel him in just a little, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Matt, I know Des Newsome has only been back practicing for a few days, but what have you been watching from him to see, make sure he's progressing kind of as he?
Yeah, just watching him in the routes on air and just seeing the details of him actually get the timing down with the quarterback. But Daz is a great kid. He's got an infectious personality, as you all see. I mean, and it's just very authentic and real. But it's also neat to see him want to learn from these older receivers too. And so he's just taking it all in, and it'll be interesting to get him out there and really get going and see what he can do.
Matt, you were talking about Desai earlier. Can you remember when you got here, was there a moment when you sat there and went, maybe this guy could be a future coordinator, the way he carried himself or something he said or did?
Yeah, when I first got here, I didn't know a lot of the guys on the defensive staff. But as the year went on, I got to know them more and more. And, you want to make sure that your quality control guys, because they don't get any credit, but they're the ones doing a lot of the work, and they're the ones that are learning a lot of the X's and O's. Like they're in the background now. Just they're hidden, but they make the thing go. And Sean was always that guy. And the thing with Sean was he was extremely patient. He was eager to move up the chain and just to continue to grow and learn. But I'll go back to the story when Vic left, and I didn't let Sean leave. He stayed, and so that if that doesn't speak to itself, I was not letting Sean go. I could see that I know what he's going to do and what he's going to be like, and I couldn't promise anything. I knew what his goal was to be a coordinator. At that time, I couldn't promise anything, but I could at least tell him and give him my word that if an opportunity does arise, you're going to have a chance at it. And so that's what's sometimes it happened now, and here we are. And I'm more excited than anybody to see him, out there this season doing his thing.
How does that conversation go? Does it go through Ryan, or do you have a conversation with Vic where you go, no, he's with me?
As far as not letting him go anywhere? Yeah, no, Ryan's really good with that. I mean, he understands that I have a feel for them, but at the same time, Ryan knew Sean before I did. So Ryan, when I got hired here, he was able to give me the background on a lot of coaches that maybe I didn't know about, and it helped me out. But all you got to do is be with Sean for a few weeks, a few months, and you get to see who he is, and you realize, here's the thing that I think sometimes I never want to take for granted with my own coaches is I want to have great teachers, and I think he's an elite teacher. He knows how to connect. He knows how to connect what he's teaching with his guys, and then what happens is you build that trust. And so that's the other part of this too. Those guys, they trust in him, and now he's able to go out there. Now it's just tell them what to do, and they'll do it.
So there's no phone call. I'd like to imagine there was a phone call where Vic's calling and trying to sweet talk you into it, but that never happened.
Yeah, Vic didn't take my calls for like 3 months after that for a little bit, but it's okay. I knew he'd get over it. Now he just in the off season he wants to call me and go to my golf course, and now he just uses my golf code. I found that I was away, and I find out he's at my golf course using my code. But obviously he got over it. But no, you know what, with Vic is, again, he's a teacher, and he not only teaches his players how to play his scheme, but with Coach Fangio, he teaches his coaches too, and they latch onto that. And so Sean is getting his opportunity, and I think he's going to do great.
Does it,
Dress code at your golf club?
Is there a dress code?
And how's Vic get by?
Yeah, there's a dress code, and Vic knows it because he used to be there. So he was properly dressed.
Matt, does an elite teacher have to be an elite play caller as well? Is that kind of an X factor with Sean, as far as game day and stuff like that? Or because he's such a good teacher, do you figure that's the overriding?
Here's the deal with teaching. So when you teach these guys, when a play goes on, you can be an elite play caller, right? And sometimes there's some things that go on within the play where the play doesn't work for specific reasons. But if you are an elite teacher and you get these players just to simply believe in the schemes that you're teaching, you can agree with the players and coaches that not every play call is going to be perfect, right? There's going to be times when players make a bad play call great, and there's going to be times when coaches can make a player look great with a play call. So I don't know if it answers exactly your question, but I do know this, is that I'm a big believer in the players trusting their coaches, and that starts in the classroom. And when you can teach and connect, the more of those that you have, I really believe the better you're going to be, because now they understand what they're going to do when they're out there playing, because you can't be teaching them on the field. They got to play.
What I'm asking is, as much as you know about his teaching ability, is there a question about how good a play caller he'll be on Sunday? Is that part of being a defense?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We all had to have our first time doing it. The greatest coaches in the history of the world in every sport had their first time, and there was always an unknown. And so for Sean, that's going to be an unknown for him until we get through this year. But that's the fun part. I mean, that's the challenge. And again, the more you believe in somebody, and I believe in Sean, I think he's going to do a great job. And is every game going to be perfect? No, it's not. We know that. But the thing that I think that's great about Sean is he's very resilient. He believes in what he's teaching. He has confidence in himself. He's not cocky, but he believes in what he's teaching. And again, that comes from the mentors that he learned from, a guy like Vic, a guy like Chuck Pagano, and several others that he's mentioned before. That's real. And now he's going to have to use that and then put his own spin on it on game day when the Bullets are flying.
Matt, do you get a different appreciation or perspective of Roquan Smith this time of year when you have to deal with him, basically?
Yeah. I mean, you see, he's a guy that you got to know where he's at. I think the positive part of Roquan is he's able, now with today's game spreading out and being so much more spread out formations, he's a three-down backer that can hang with running backs in the pass game. But then you can also see he's going to thump you too. So his arrow is extremely high. He keeps going up, and he's somebody that from day one of OTAs, just his mental side, you can see it. So in practice, we got to know where he's at. He's been doing a great job.
I heard coaches talk about Luke Kuechly when he was playing and how it was like maddening the way he would know your play and he would know what you were calling. How does Roquan get to that level? That seems like that would be the next phase for him.
Yeah, I'm not so sure he's not too far away from that. The way he studies and you can see the anticipation that he uses, like in the screen. You've seen him the last couple of years on some of these screens when he's just flying through there, blowing the running back up before he gets the ball. Even in that goal, last couple of days in the goal line, that interception he had. He's one step ahead. And so I think that's probably what, there's been times we played against Kuechly where the little things that he's a Tampa 2 backer in that scheme, and he's shooting up high in the cover 2. He's playing the high middle in the Tampa, and you think that all of a sudden you're clearing him out with a go route, and the dagger's coming right off. He lets the go route off and slips onto the dagger and gets a pick. And so, that's anticipation. That's knowing what the team does and schematically. And Roquan's, this guy is obsessed. He's obsessed with being the best linebacker in the NFL, and I love that.
Matt, you back there, that is, I'm not sure.